All right, welcome back to Pete the Mower Guy Small Engine Repair. And as you probably figured out, I am Pete, and this is my third video. And I did want to say that I'm pretty pleased with how this is starting off. My first video, which really took like a month and a half to do, practically 2 months to finally get it on YouTube, had over 300 views. And I'm really pleased with that. Just posted the second one. It's about sharpening hedge clippers. So if you haven't seen it, it's really informative. You'll see in a video if you are somewhat mechanically inclined. You might be able to take care of something like that, or at least learn a few things about getting a hedge clippers, hedge trimmers, however you want to call it, sharpened. This video here, this is my third one, as I said. Today's date is March 16th. Before I show you what this video is gonna be about, I thought I'd just take the camera around, show you what I've got going on right now, and then I'll show you what the video is. By the way, I do want to mention that I had a few people mention to me that it was a pretty long video, my first one. And yeah, I realized it was, but my intentions of it was to let everybody know who I am and what I do. And so that was it. But the future videos, they won't be as long, and I'll try to edit any of the unnecessary parts out of it. And so you get a complete, how can I put it, understanding of just what I'm trying to do over here. So anyways, let's get started with this. I'm going to grab the camera, take you around, show you what I got going on right now. It is spring. Last week the weather was absolutely beautiful. We had some 70-degree days, sunshine, and the grass started turning green. I picked a dandelion last week. I was looking out, I saw a robin outside. I see my pear trees are starting to bloom, and I also see some flurries floating around in the air. So it's technically still winter, and Old Man Winter hasn't loosened up its grip quite yet, but I'm sure some nice days are coming. And with the nice days that were last week, the grass turning green, my phone started ringing. And with it ringing, I got a bunch of mowers, riders mostly, to work on. I know a couple of them are repairs. A lot of them are just seasonal service. So these ones that need to repair, I'm going to try to bang those out of the way first. And if somebody needs their mower if the grass starts growing before I can get to it, well, they can go ahead and cut grass with it. It won't hurt anything, even though it's been sitting since last fall. It won't hurt anything to go ahead and cut it till I get it. So anyways, I'm a one-man band over here, and what could I say? I'll get to it as soon as I can. So anyways, let's go around and check this stuff out that I have to work on. I'm going to start with this Skag right here. This is one of my regular customers. He cuts grass. He has another job, but he also does this on the side, cutting grass. And I serviced the machine, and I was hoping I was done with it. But when I pulled the air cleaner off, the air cleaner cover, that's this thing. Let me get this out of the way. It's this thing right here. The air filter was just saturated with gasoline. So I knew I had to take that carburetor off. I took it off, and there it is. And I did my test on it, and sure enough, that thing's leaking gas. So I went to the internet. I went to Parts Tree, which is where I buy most of my OEM parts, and I looked the price up. That there is a carburetor that I bought. It's still in the bag, but it's the same carburetor. Anyways, so I went to Parts Tree. I got the part number. That carburetor, the OEM carburetor right there, was, if I remember correctly, like $268. I'm like, holy cow. So I got the part number, and as I've said in other videos, I went to eBay. I put that part number in. Some of the OEM carburetors that were on eBay were like $169. Well, that carburetor right there, which is still in the bag, I don't know how well you can make it out. That carburetor right there was $16. Now, how could I go wrong? If he goes through a carburetor a year, that'd be 10 carburetors for the same cost as one OEM carburetor. So, and I bought in a lot of these aftermarket carburetors, and they seem to have done really well. So, anyways, I got to put that on. So I got a couple of machines outside I need to work on, small push mowers. I think I'm going to get those out of the way. Let's take a walk out, and I'll show you what I've got here. I got the heat on, so I don't want to leave the door open. All right. I've got 3 Hondas here. This one here, I serviced this last fall, maybe it was even during winter time, and I'm pretty sure real nice lady. I'm pretty sure that she ran her mower dry on gas, and I'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit. But anyways, with the nice weather, she pulled it out, and she called me up, and she said it's leaking gas from her hose. So I went over to get it today, and let me show you what happened here. I may have did this when I serviced it, not realized it, but the fuel line right here has a little split in it. That's where the gas is leaking. So this isn't going to be a big deal repair. I've got plenty of fuel line in there, so I'm probably going to take care of this. Just get it in, change the fuel line, and put a new one in. I think I'll even give her a full tank of gas. She's a real nice lady, and I don't think there was any gas in this machine when I took it back to her. Like I said, if I remember correctly, I think she ran it dry, and I told her, you know, since you got it dry, leave it dry, put some gas. If you have any problems, give me a call. Well, she did call and said about that, so I went and got it this morning, and I'll probably get that back to her either tomorrow or Wednesday. Today is Monday the 16th, so yeah, I'm going to take that. That's only going to take a few minutes to have that replaced. I'll fire it up, make sure it's all right. This mower over here, this Honda, and boy, I sure hope you guys can hear me, because as I mentioned in the other videos, they've been working on the street here, and now they're seeding everything that they replaced, and they're putting that green material down. So anyways, I hope you can hear me. Anyway, this mower here, no, I'm sorry. This one here, I just have to do a service to it. Change the oil, sharpen the blades, air filter plug, get her ready for the spring. Not a big deal. These Hondas here, I think they have what they call quad cuts. They got 2 blades on them. I don't know if it really was something that really caught on good, because, you know, if they got something that really works, I'm sure other manufacturers can figure ways around their patents and come up with their own way. So Honda has this quad cut system where it's 2 blades, 2 edges. So I guess that's where the quadra cut, that's what they call it, quadra cut. 2 blades, 4 edges. I don't know. I guess it does all right. They still have it. So, yeah, like I said, all I got to do to that is just do a spring service on it. And then this here is also a Honda. They call it a Black Max. I think this is an older one because this has a choke on it. These newer Hondas came out with an automatic choke, which is really a nice system. It's hooked up, the choke system's hooked up to the heat of the engine, which opens the choke. These ones here are manual, and these ones here have been, I don't think they've been the greatest carburetor system there is, because these a lot of times these will just start running, and when the choke lets off, they'll start surging. And I'm not sure. I'm going to check to see that if it does do that, I'm going to rejet that one jet. I'm going to open that up. But this mower here has a couple of issues up here. These cables are frozen solid. They're rusted up. They're not doing anything. And there's a bail handle. Fits underneath here. We'll get this up. Fits underneath here. When you squeeze it, it pulls the drive cable, which drives the self-propel. Well, I don't know what happened. the handle's missing, and somebody drilled a hole in this handle here and stuck the spring in there. Well, the problem with that is when you pull the handle back, not only, I can't leave it like that, because when you pull the handle back, when you start it, it's going to take off. And it shouldn't do that. That can be quite dangerous. So I got to get that all taken care of and straightened out. Oh, before I show you about this machine, I wanted to show you all about this. Now, I intentionally left all that grass clippings on the floor to explain what was wrong with this machine that I just showed you. This Husqvarna here, when I went to pick it up, the only way to get it to move was I'd have to put my heel on the pedal there and pull back on it. If not, it just wasn't going. And I was like, boy, that belt's either got to be stretched or something. But yesterday I pulled it in the shop and I jacked it up. And underneath there were I don't know what it's called, a quadrant or something, the steering mechanism. There's a plate between the frame itself with the engine bolts to and the steering components. There's a plate, and between that plate and the frame on the inside, it was so packed with grass clippings. All of those grass clippings came out of that little plate. And what I said, well, what it was on the pedal, there's a, well, I'll call it a plate also, that when you let off of the pedal, the spring pulls the pedal back, and that's what puts tension on the belt. It rests against the frame of another part of the frame of the machine, and that's what puts the tension on the belt, which drives the machine. When you step on it, it loosens the belt up, and that way it'll be like a neutral, and your engine's not turning the transmission. What I suspect, or what I'm 99% positive happened, was there were so much grass clippings in between that plate that's on the brake pedal, which is this right here, and the frame itself. So instead of the pedal coming back all the way to tighten up the belt, the grass clippings in between there was stopping it. And of course it wouldn't move. It wasn't putting enough tension on the belt. So when I pulled it in the shop there, that was all of the grass clippings that I got out of it. So this is just going to be a normal service. I thought I was going to have to replace that belt, but that belt looked good, and I don't have to do that. That'll be just a normal spring service. This Simplicity here, I've been having a lot of issues with this thing. They did a really screwy job of putting that transmission together. I don't know about others. I know on a lot of them, on a transmission, you got a fan and you got a pulley. Well, a lot of manufacturers put the pulley underneath the fan, and they have belt guides that keeps the belt on that pulley. Well, on this Simplicity, the fan is underneath. Let me think here. Yes, the fan is underneath the pulley, and there's no belt guide to keep that belt on that pulley that drives the transmission. And this customer here, I've been servicing his equipment a while. He's a good guy. You can't really see it, but anyways, the belt keep coming off. So I ended up, I took his whole fender assembly off, the seat and everything, and I kind of fabricated a belt guide where I welded a plate of steel like a bar stock on the end of a bolt head and bolted to the frame to keep the belt on the pulley. Well, all summer long it worked, and all summer long I didn't hear him about it. Well, he called a little while ago and said the belt's off the pulley, so I got to take that whole assembly off, and he wants his spring service done to it too, so I got to take care of all of that, pull that off, and see if I can readjust that. But boy, if anybody knows about these Simplicities and know why it's doing what it's doing, I sure would appreciate it. I'm at wit's end with this thing. I'll try one more time to adjust, and I'll tell them, you know, if I can't get it, maybe. And that's kind of sad, because Simplicity, even if you haven't heard of it, it is really a real commercial machine. There's just not a lot of dealers in the western Pennsylvania area. Not that I know of anyways. So anyways, that's what I got to do to that. Let me get this set back here. That ZTR right here, I got to deliver it. I'm done with that. I did a spring service on it. And by the way, if you don't know what ZTR is, that means zero turning radius. Those machines there will spin themselves right around on a dime. They're really cool to operate too. Take a little getting used to, but boy, once you do, you love it. That's a nice machine right there. That Lawn Boy, that's one of those Dura-Force engines. That thing's actually scrap. I'm going to pull the block off of it because those blocks are coming fewer and far between. So I want to keep as many of those engines anyways. Oh, by the way, over yonder is the Cub Cadet. I haven't gotten back to it. That'll be a video. I got to get through this spring rush before I can get back to that. But I got it covered up. I got the engine covered up and the rest of it. It won't hurt the hood any if it gets rained on. So that's coming, that video there. And this Cub Cadet still sits here. What I'm planning to do with this one is, I'm going to get it running, of course, but one of the future videos, I'm going to talk about the electrical system on a riding mower, the safety switches, ignition switches, all the different things about that. And that'll be a future video. I know probably the next one I'm going to show about replacing starter ropes, but I'll use this as a demo on where the different safety switches are and how they work, the most important ones, all of that. So that'll be an upcoming video. And that puppy right there, that is my 2021 Sportster 48. That was a retirement gift to myself. I bought that in August of 21. I think it was the last new bike that our Harley-Davidson dealer sold because they went out of business, which makes me sad because they were only 5 minutes away. But other Harley dealers are doing the service work on them. But anyways, I bought that in August of 21. I love this bike. I did a few modifications to it. I put a high flow air cleaner on it. Matter of fact, I just cleaned it. I was surprised. It was only on there, I don't think, a full year. And it was really dirty. They have that's a K&N air filter, by the way, if you know the brand name. K&N's pretty popular. I got a recharge kit, cleaned it, re-oiled it. I'm good for spring. I did a few modifications. Nothing too dramatic. I put the engine guard on. That's what they call this. Not a crash bar anymore. I put a thermometer on there, and let's see what that temperature says here. Let me get close to it. You know, what I'm reading is it's actually below 30 right now, so it's pretty cool. I put this on. That was just a decoration. Put the saddlebags on. That was a pain in the butt. Put the 48 on there. I replaced that with the 48. I saw that on somebody else's bike and I thought, man, that was really cool. So I got that on there. I put LED lights and Vance and Hines fuel pack. You can't see it, but it's underneath there. It actually ties my bike into my phone if I wanted to do any diagnostics on it. It's not inside where this wiring harness is. Matter of fact, that's where the plug is for the fuel pack. Oh, and I put this oil cooler on there right here. So I want to make sure it's running nice and cool in the hot weather. So anyways, I had it out a few times last week and just love it. I just love this bike. My sixth bike, all of the other ones I've had were Hondas, so I didn't know what to expect with a Harley-Davidson, but you know, I can really tell you I am not disappointed with it. It's just a great all-around bike. I love riding it. So anyways, that's what I got going on right now, besides having a waiting list of a half a dozen people. But this is what the next video is going to be on. Servicing for spring a push mower. Now that Lawn Boy right there, that is mine. I bought that, I think, in 07. Let's see here. The first two digits of the code on the Lawn Boy is the year the engine was built. And I'm pretty sure I bought that in '07, in the fall of '07, late summer, fall. And a couple of people said to me, "Pete, what are you buying a push mower for? You could fix any one of them up." I had only one, there was only one answer I could give them. Because I wanted it. I really like this mower. It's a commercial. I don't need a commercial mower, but it's a commercial lawn boy. It's got a Briggs engine on it. I like that. A commercial tank. I think that tank's like a gallon or a gallon and a quarter. I'm not sure, but it's a pretty big tank. It goes a long time running. I'm going to service it. That's what the video is going to be about. This lawn boy right here. Show you what to do to get your mower ready for spring. Let me pull her outside here and give you a little look around it. Show you how to get your mower ready for spring and ready for the cutting season. And this is the machine that I'm going to use. So anyways, well, I'll talk more in detail about spring services. It's really not a big deal. It's really not something you can't do. It's really not that difficult. It's not like rebuilding an engine, I'll put it that way. So anyways, I am going to end up pausing this video, and when I come back, and it probably won't be today, but when I come back, I'm going to get the lawn boy, and we're going to do a spring service on it. So grab yourself some popcorn, have a seat, and when I come back, get to enjoy watching servicing a lawnmower. I'm always forgetting to put the microphone on. My wife says I should use it because the other microphone might be a little hard. But anyways, I got it on. Let's see what happens. I'm going to prime it 3 times. Make sure the gas valve's open. Check the oil. Yeah, she's good. Can't overemphasize the importance of checking the oil. That was 3 primes, and that hasn't been started since, well, at least since the beginning of December. 3 shots on the primer, which is what I do during the summertime. Sounds good. All right, let me get it on a workbench. Let me zoom back out again. All right, now, this is totally up to you. I've never done it. I think that these people, these guys, these shops and everything, and again, I'm not telling you one way or another. I'm just telling you what I do. They tell you, you got to run your mower dry at the end of the season. You got to do it. You'll ruin it. They make it sound like you'll completely destroy the engine if you don't. I've never done it. Come spring, I never have any problem starting my machine. If you're watching, and what else to say is these guys, these landscapers that, you know, they have ZTRs and walk behinds and, you know, and riders, people even, you know, homeowners who have riding machines and, you know, countless machines out there that they don't run their machines dry. They don't run their what. If you have a riding mower and you run it dry, let me know, okay? And then also let me know if you don't. Let me know if you have any. Put it in the comments if you have any problems starting the machine in the spring. I think it's really, in my opinion, and again, if you do it, go ahead. But I always get gas at Sheetz. It's top quality gas, and I've never had any trouble starting my machine in the spring. Now, if you got a machine like a log splitter, a rototiller, snow blower, anything that you only use maybe once a year, you know, that's a different story. You'll want to get those things dry. You want to make sure the carburetor dry. That come the time that you need the machine, that the carburetor didn't get gunked up. But lawn mowers, no. I mean, even with some of the machines that have come in for me to service it, they always fired right up. So anyways, that's what I'm covering as far as, running your machine dry at the end of the season. I fired it up, and it is a good idea to fire your mower up at the before you service it. Check your oil, make sure it's full. Fire it up, and what's going on inside of that engine block is just total chaos. I mean, that oil is just flying and splashing everywhere. You got splashers in there, maybe it has an oil, but whatever. That oil is just getting flung everywhere, and it's a good idea to fire it up, get it running a little bit, and that way the oil gets all stirred up. And if anything's settled in the bottom of the block, it'll get stirred up inside of the engine. And when you drain it, it'll be flushed out with it. So I'm going to jack my table up here, and I'm going to drain the oil. And by the way, just to mention this, I haven't seen any of them anymore that put a drain plug on the bottom of the base of the engine. They have designed these where the oil tube is actually on the opposite side. Now, this is a commercial, so it's got a commercial tank on it, but the oil tube is actually on the opposite side of where you fill it up, where your gas cap is. So you don't want to have your tank full, because a gas cap is vented. That vent has to be there for that gas to flow through the system into your carburetor. If it wasn't vented, in a few minutes it would stall, because the gas can't travel into the carburetor. So you don't want to have a full tank when you do this. Half tank, you should be fine. And if you want to, I mean, do it outside. But if you're going to do it in your garage, just make sure your gas cap is your gas level is done. And what else you can do is just take a piece of plastic, put it over where you pour the fuel in, put a piece of plastic over there, and then screw your cap back on, because that'll help stop any gasoline from leaking out of it. This doesn't have much gas in it, so I'm not too worried about it. But what I'm getting at is it's designed to flip on a side is how you change the oil. You just flip it on that side where the oil tube is to go down, whichever side it's on your machine. Do it outside, do it in your shop. Just make sure you have the right container for it. But you won't hurt the engine at all. If you flip it on the wrong side, you're going to end up flooding the chamber where your valves are and where your breather is, and then when you fire it up, it's going to get funneled right into your carburetor, and it's going to smoke like crazy. And a lot of times when I've seen something like that, or oil get into the combustion chamber, I wait until it's dark out, because I'll fire it up and it'll just let out bellows of smoke, and I'm afraid somebody may call the fire company or something on that. And I'll do it at night. So anyways, let me get this thing jacked up and get this oil flushed out. All right, got her jacked up. Can't beat having this lift table. What I have suspended from the ceiling is it's a cam lock strap. And what I do is I'll flip it on the side and I'll hook the cam lock strap onto the handle, let the oil drain out, and while it's draining out, I'll take the blade off and sharpen it up. Something I need to explain. Shops should have a minimum charge. I can't have this shop and charge 20 bucks to service a mower. My minimum charge on a push mower is an hour and a half labor. On a rider, which I should actually increase it to 2.5 hours, and I may do that next spring because it's taken me a lot longer than 2 hours to service a riding mower. But those are my minimum charges. Now, a mower, servicing a mower may not take an hour and a half, but I can't have this shop, this table, the tools for sharpening, that blade sharpener and balancer's over $1,000. I'm burning lights right now. I got to make money, and I got to do more than just break even, because what's the sense of having a small engine shop if all you're going to do is work and not get anything out of it? But I got to make enough money to cover these costs that I have for servicing a mower, plus put a little extra cash in my pocket. So my minimum charge for servicing a push mower is an hour and a half labor. Now, it may not take an hour and a half. It might take me an hour to service it. Or it may take me longer. If I got a mower that I have to just do a simple job on it, change the oil, sharpen the blade, air filter, spark plugs, maybe it won't take me an hour. But that's my minimum charge. Or I may have a mower that I got to replace the wheels. I got to put a new starter rope on it. I got to tear the carburetor apart, clean it, maybe possibly rebuild it. If I got to order wheels for it, that time that it takes me to go up to the computer, do the research, find the wheels, order the wheels, that's all time involved in that one mower. If I got to put a new carburetor on it, like I was explaining earlier, that 25, that's all time involved in that machine. And so, maybe a push mower might take me more than 2 hours. But I'm not going to milk somebody either. I mean, that's all part of a service as far as getting the machine ready for spring. If I got to go into other details, bigger things like rebuilding the engine or something, well, that's a different story. But when it comes to servicing a mower, my minimum rate, my minimum charge is going to be an hour and a half labor. As far as a push or a rider goes, my minimum charge is going to be 2 hours labor. And again, it may take me a lot longer. It may not take me, but whatever, that's what it's going to be. So that's how I charge it. This video here is to show you, you don't have to be, an engineer or anything to figure out how to service your machine and get it ready for spring. This is to help you if you wanted to do it yourself. I'm not trying to drive business away from me, but then again, some people just, they're not mechanically inclined to do something. They'd rather somebody else do it, which is what I'm doing here. So anyways, let's get back to changing this oil and getting these blades off. Now I got this thing here. What I'll do is I'll just get it over here and hook this on the handle. Pick that up a little bit more. And now it's ready to drain the oil. Make sure that tube is clear. Where did I put my oil pan? There it is. Some questions might be, how often should I change my oil? I do it once a season. This oil that I use, this is really good 10W30. It's a synthetic blend, and it's what I use in all the machines, the 1030. That old Kohler out there, I got some 30 weight, and mine, that old Kohler with the cast iron engine, I got 30 weight for that. But this here, I'm going to put the 1030 in. It's multi-viscosity. They say that with a multi-viscosity, you should check the oil more often than a straight 30 weight, because it's a thinner when it's for whatever reason. You should check it more often. So I think I said it earlier, I can't overemphasize the importance of checking your oil. You know, if you're not in a regular habit of doing it, you know, once a month, whatever, do it every time you start the mower. They do burn oil. All engines burn oil. Ever so slightly, they will go down. So it's, as I said, I can't overemphasize it. So anyway, let me get that blade off. Oh, if you want to be safe, take the spark plug wire off. I didn't. I never do. But, you know, just to be safe, you might want to do that. Now, I know I put that on with an air impact, and that puppy pulled it right off. So that's good. All right. Now I'm going to explain lawnmower blades. There's 3 very important things about a lawnmower blade that you need to know. One of them is the sharpness, okay? Now, I got a blade sharpener over there, and like I said earlier, that blade sharpener and the balancer between the two, if you go out and buy them, you're looking at over $1,000. But you don't have to go out and spend $1,000 if you're going to service this yourself. You may not get the same results as I am, but you're not going to destroy your machine. I have seen, well, I'll get into that. But anyways, you want to make sure you got a nice sharp edge on it. And they'll even tell you, I don't do it because the way this thing does, it puts a, I don't know what you would call a hollow ground edge on it, so I don't really do it. But you can use a hand grinder to sharpen these. And if you get that razor edge, like I said, I don't do it because of the hollow ground, but if you're using a hand grinder and you get a razor edge on there, you can take a file and just flatten that down a little bit. And that way that edge, just a little bit, if you looked at a brand new blade, they're never really that sharp. Flatten it down and, you know, you'll possibly, it stays sharp longer. So that's one thing, the sharpness of the blade. The other thing is the balance. Now, the balancer, like I said, I got over there. It's a really expensive one. I mean, when I'm done balancing a blade, it's perfect. You don't need to do that. Now, you're not going to get the same balance out of it that I do. But what you can do is you can put a screwdriver in a vise, and you could either center it up on the center hole on a round screwdriver and see if it sits. If one side goes down or the other side, you know, you got to take a little bit off of that. That's another important thing about a blade. Very important. If you get a blade that's out of balance, now I don't know about on these machines today, but back not long after I started doing this, some of these MTDs and things, the bolts that bolt the engine to the deck itself, there would be cracks there. And I suspected that those cracks, and it happened on so many of them, which makes me think it wasn't so much that the crankshaft was bent and causing a vibration that cracked those. It was an unbalanced blade. And I don't see it anymore. Maybe they're making these decks a little bit stronger. Maybe somebody realized that, you know, we got to do something because these things are cracking. But I don't see it anymore. But it is, when you got a balanced blade and that engine's spinning at 3,000 RPM, it's really centering itself on the bearing surface of the sump itself, which means it's getting a nice coat of oil all around it. When you get it off balance, you got one side of that blade pushing it against that bearing surface on your sump. And eventually it could end up wearing it on and cause leaks, something like that. You know, I would definitely at least try to balance it on a screwdriver. And once you can get it balanced, you know that thing's going to be running pretty smooth. And the third thing about a blade is the lift. That's this area right here. Now, I've seen it many times. I got a rider sitting outside there that it's starting to wear right in here. And this edge right here will actually get as sharp as a razor from wear. When that starts to show wear inside of this area here and in here, it's time to replace it. I mean, you can sharpen it, go ahead and cut your grass, but keep in mind that blade's got that wear on there, and that, you know, at least by the end of the season, you want to get yourself a new blade on there. So anyway, what I'm going to do to sharpen this is I'm going to, and I'm not going to videotape it. I'll bring it over after I get it sharpened. But I'm going to clean this up on a wire wheel because grass clippings will build up on this. And actually, those grass clippings will throw this thing out of balance. So I'm going to clean this thing up, all the grass clippings off of it, and sharpen it and balance it. And then I'll show you what it looks like cleaned on the balancer and ready to install. So let me pause this, and when I come back, I'll show you about the blade. All right, let's get back into this. It's about 9 o'clock Thursday evening after I put the mower on the side, had some running around to do, had to leave it. Well, I'm back, and I'm going to try to get this video done now. So let me show you what I did. I sharpened the blade. I already showed you previously that what the blade looked like and what to look for on it, and the different parts of a blade, the three different things: balance, sharpness, and lift. And I just got done sharpening my blade. It's a boring process, so I didn't videotape it, but I do have it on the base, on the balancer, and I'm going to show it to you. Now that is a balanced blade. That blade balancer is extremely expensive, but it makes a blade perfectly balanced. It is so sensitive that I could have put a sliver of tape on one side and it will bring that side down. That's how sensitive it is. And that's my blade sharpener. I've had that thing since I started the shop, never had any issues with it. There's another stone on the other side there I only replaced, and I don't even really think I needed to. But anyways, that's what I use. That's the blade sharpener, and that's the blade balancer. And I have two of these. I have one for flat blades, like this one, and I have one on a wall over there. Let me get a close-up of that one. I can't use that blade sharpener for mulching blades, so what I have to do is I have to put a mulching blade in my vise, sharpen it with a hand grinder, and then I balance it there. And the reason I got two is before I had it, I'd sharpen it, take it over there, it was unbalanced, bring it back over. This way I could do everything right here. So let me turn the camera back around here and get this straightened out. All right, now that's what the edge looks like. I hope I can focus in on that. There are some nicks in there, and if you're sharpening your blade, don't worry about trying to get all those nicks out because you're going to lose too much of your blade, and it's really not going to change any performances cutting your grass. But that's how it does. It does, like I said, it does like a hollow ground edge on it, and really does a nice job. Very sharp. Be careful. So I can go ahead and I can put this back on and flip the mower back up and do the rest of the service on it. So let me turn this camera a little bit. You can see me over there. Yeah, I might be a little distance away, but while you got it up like this, it's a good time to clean any grass clippings out of your deck. I got one of these scraper here. Handy little tool to cleaning the deck on. And then I also have another scraper. The bottom of this deck is pretty square all around, but you got some that are curved. I did this to a regular scraper, and that way I can get right into the edges of it, cleaning the deck on. Now's the best time to do it. So if you got one of those decks, just get a scraper like this and curve it. You know, grind it like that. You can even sharpen the edge a little bit, and you get a nice clean. Get your deck nice and clean. I don't have a lot of grass clippings in here. I don't know if this is why, this being a lawn boy, and nobody else has ever done this, so I don't know if this is what did it. I mulch my grass, but lawn boy puts this little blade underneath on the bottom of the this little fan on the bottom of the blade itself. I don't know if that helps keep the grass clippings, mulch them up better, keep the deck clean or whatever. You don't need it on there, but I always make sure I have one on there, and I don't end up with a lot of clippings on the bottom of my deck. So, and I also think if you bag your grass, you got a lawn boy, this helps bag your grass better. Let me get this deck cleaned out. I do this on all the mowers. When I'm servicing a mower, I make sure the decks are clean as best as I can do it. And I'll tell you, some of this stuff gets on there pretty solid. I spend a lot of time just getting all the clippings off. One time I had a customer come to me and he thought his engine was locked up. And I was like, all right, we flipped it on the side, and here what happened was there was so much clippings on the bottom of the deck that the blade was wedged in those clippings and it couldn't pull it. We cleaned the deck and fired right up. He felt kind of stupid. Hey, no reason to feel stupid about it, but anyways, we got that taken care of. I'm going to put the blade on with my Hercules half-inch drive impact wrench. You don't need one of these to get your blade on and off. Make sure you have gloves. If you do it the way I'm going to show you. You need one of these, a breaker bar. And you'll need to want to put gloves on because you're going to hold one of the blades with your hand while you crack it loose with this here. I would suggest, disconnecting the spark plug wire. This came from Harbor Freight. It's a pretty good breaker bar. It's a nice long one. You can get this at Harbor Freight for, say, less than 30 bucks, or you can buy a snap-on that costs you over 200 bucks. I would suggest to go to Harbor Freight and get one of these, but you can use this to get that bolt on and off. All right, let me get this blade on. Make sure she's lined up properly. This is a 4-cycle. It's not the 2-cycle lawn boy. So, make sure it's lined up properly. There she is. I can just hold it there. There it is. All right. That thing took that blade bolt on. I have no problem putting it, took it off. I have no problem using it to put it back on. I know all the oil's drained because it's been sitting like that for, well, since the last time I taped. That's been in, that was this morning. Here it is, 9 o'clock at night. I'll flip her back up. All right, I got the oil change, or I got the oil drained. This is a Briggs. It's extremely important. Make sure you put the right spark plug in it. Now, I've been doing it long enough. I know the plug that goes in here. It's a Champion J19LM. The overhead valve engines of Briggs, they're an RC12YC. I think the Kohler overheads are an RC12YC too. The Kawasaki's, I think, are an RCJ8Y. You can find out on the internet. There's no problem finding out what the right plug is that you should use on your mower. I brought a couple of air filters. I wasn't sure exactly which one it was. I'm pretty sure that it's this one here. This is the aftermarket. This is Stens part number 100184. I'm pretty sure this is the right one looking at it. But I also have the other one, which is the same thing, only it's longer. See the difference in the size. Do you need to change your air filter every year? Depending on the conditions, yeah, you might. If you're doing a lot of grass cutting, mulching, kicking up grass, bagging, you might. If you're just doing your own yard and it isn't that big, running your mower maybe half hour, 45 minutes, you might not need to change it every year. But oil is cheap, and I would change oil every year. I may not change my air filter every year. What I'll do is I'll take it out, I'll blow it out with my compressor and put it back in, and then maybe change it every couple of years. But I change the oil every year on my mower. So let me grab a wrench here. We'll check out that air filter, see what it looks like. I've had this mower since, I think I bought it in '07. And speaking of oil, I was a little bit, I don't know if you want to call it apprehensive or not apprehensive, obsessive compulsive, but that when you buy a new mower, they suggest that you change the oil like 4 to 6 hours of operation and make sure you change it hot. And I did that. And just for the heck of it, I ran it another 4 to 6 hours and I flushed it out again and I put fresh oil in it. And I can tell you, this engine was, the year this was built was 2007. So that's 7 to 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. This will be the 23rd year, 24th year of me running this mower. And I barely ever have to add oil to it during the season. So if you ever do get a new mower, and I know some of these new Briggs engines, they say you never have to change oil, and I heard the reason behind it. I don't want to get into it. I don't buy it. I don't buy that. If I had one of those engines, I'd still change it every year. So, and also, as I was saying, I think I said it earlier, when you're, if you're not in a regular habit of checking the oil, say once a month or whatever, then do it every time you use it, because oil's cheap, engines are expensive. And I kind of joke with people that a small engine mechanic's secret is to make sure you check your oil, because I make a lot of money off of people who don't check your oil. But anyways, I can't overemphasize the importance of your oil in an engine. So anyways, let me get some oil here. Where did I put my oil? Ah, there it is. And I don't know why it is, but for some reason, and there was an explanation. It might be that they don't take a full quart of oil. Is the reason is that you have oil through the season for in case it gets slow. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know, but these don't take a full quart of oil. So I'll give her a squirt. Oh, by the way, you ever come across one of these things? They're usually on the gear oil bottles, but if you ever come across, save it, because they fit perfect on an oil bottle, and makes it really easy to get the oil back into your engine. So I'm going to give her a good squirt here. And I'm going to leave it go. I'm going to leave it settle down, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to put the air filter on. By the way, this air filter isn't too bad. I know it's been probably a number of years, maybe a couple years since I've changed it, but I'm going to change it anyways. And to check an air filter, see how clean it is, what you do is you grab your flashlight, and I'll see if I can do this. You just shine your flashlight. If you can see light on the inside, then they say it's okay. The manufacturer tells you to change them every year. I would suggest that, if you can do that in 1 year, just reuse it. I'm going to change it. I know it's been a couple of years since I've changed it, and I want to just make sure I got start the season with a clean air filter. Now, this is a commercial grade engine. This has actually 2 air filters, if you want to call it that. One's a pre-filter, which is that right there. It's a little foam filter wrap, and it goes around the the paper part of the air filter. Now, some of them say that you should oil this pre-filter. Some of them say don't oil the pre-filter. I don't. I just, now, like if it's a foam oil filter that's going into a lawn boy, yeah, I'll saturate that with oil and then squeeze out the excess. But with this paper and this foam, I figure that's plenty enough filtration to keep that engine clean. By the way, just to let you know, the velocity of the air, and I read this or heard this somewhere, but the velocity of the air going into the throttle of that carburetor is 70 miles an hour. Now, running at full throttle, 70 miles an hour. So you can figure that what's getting sucked in through this is coming in at 70 miles an hour, and if there's anything around there, it's going to get stuck on this, and that's what you want. You want whatever gets into that combustion chamber clean. So, again, I can't overemphasize the importance of a clean air filter. Like I said, you could probably reuse them, for 2 years, but, once a year when you're servicing your mower, at least check it. So anyways, I'm going to put the new air filter on it, get the cover on it. Lost one of the bolts. Well, I'll have to find that. Oh, here it is. Yeah, you got to keep an eye on these things. Like I said before, as soon as your back turns, they grow legs and walk away. All right, so I got the new air filter in it. Let me check the oil. Where did I put my dipstick? Ah, it's in the oil pan. I don't know if I've said it on other videos. I buy oil in 55-gallon drums. The oil I get is 10W30. It's a synthetic blend. I feel it's great oil. But I wouldn't suggest going out and getting a 55-gallon drum of oil. What I would suggest is make sure you get a quality oil. I've always a Pennzoil fan, and I've never had any issues with using Pennzoil oil. But just get a good brand of 10W30, and you should be good. I know that some of these new tune-up kits that you get from aftermarket, they're sending 10W40. And, well, I've always used 1030. I don't know what the big deal is about sending 1040. I'm still using 1030 in all the mowers that I have, except for those old Kohlers. Those old Kohlers I'm putting the 30 weight in. But anyways, 1030 seems to be the oil of choice for the longest time. So anyways, let me let that settle down. Let me get the spark plug out. As I said, this is a Champion. I don't know if that can be focused on there or not. J19LM. If I get in front of the camera, it's a Champion. Not too bad, but I mean it'll run through the season. But it's always nice to start with a fresh plug because they're not that expensive. $3-4 for a plug once a year. Who knows? Your plug may go bad and say you got to yank your mower a bunch of times to get it started. So I'm putting a new one in it. I haven't been using up my J19LM as I have a number of years ago because all of the engines today are overhead valves. And I don't get too many of these flatheads. The Tecumseh has always had a J19LM. The Briggs was a J19LM. So I stocked up on all of the J19LMs, and now I don't use them that much. But, oh well, I'll just keep them here till I need more. Use them up until I need more. So this is important. Check your gap. Don't depend on the manufacturer of the plug to give you the proper gap. They spit these out thousands at a time, so it's always best to check your gap. They all tell you that. So this gap here is 30 thousandths, and I can see that's a little bit on the loose side. So I'm just going to tap the end of it a little bit and get a little snugger. I don't think it would really make much difference as far as starting. It's just, well, as I said before, I mean, this is how I do all of the mowers. Now that's got a slight drag on it, so I know that gap's set right. But as I said in my other video, when somebody's paying me to do this, I'm going to make sure everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I have a phrase. There's no such thing as a shortcut, and shortcuts always cause you more problems. So measure it now, check your gap, you know you're right. You don't want the wrong gap, and then down the road your mower won't start and you don't know why. And when you're tightening this, you don't want to go crazy on it. You want to get it nice and tight, but not over tight. That should be tight enough. That's all the tighter I'm going to do it. Put my wire back on, and I'm going to check my oil. This is kind of also important. Depending on the engine that you have, some of them screw in, some of them, like the Hondas, you don't screw that cap in to check the oil. You pull your dipstick out, you wipe your dipstick out, and you just set it in where it rests on top of the tube, and then you pull it. That's how you check the oil. You don't screw it in. That's important, because if you screw it in and have it on a full mark, chances are it's really on the low mark. And you start burning a little bit of oil, that engine's going to be starving for oil. So make sure you do it properly. This here, you can't go wrong. This goes down a quarter turn, locks it in place. That's on this Briggs. Got her in there. Now I can see I'm still a little bit on the low side. So you get a little bit more oil in there. I don't think I have enough in this bottle, so I'm going to have to get some out of my gallon jugs. Here's a pretty neat funnel. This funnel here, now this didn't come from Harbor Freight. I think I got this at, I think it was AutoZone. But you can get them at any parts store. It has a knob on the bottom here that locks it in, so you can put how much oil you want without it leaking out, and then put it wherever you want, turn this loose, and the oil drain. What I do, I got that 55-gallon drum. I just fill up a milk bottle with it, and then I use a quart bottle, fill up the quart bottle, and use that to put into the engine. So got that tight. I'm going to give this thing about almost a quart of oil and drain it in the oil bottle. On the riders, I'll probably use the funnel right into the tube where you pour the oil in, because it's going to take it's going to take 2 quarts of oil, most likely. I know Kawasaki's, they're like dead on. Like, when you change the oil on a Kawasaki on a riding mower, it's like to the drop 2 quarts of oil with a fresh oil filter. I don't put 2 quarts in it and fire it up. I fill it up until it hits the full mark, fire the engine up, and once that oil circulates through the engine, fills up the oil filter, then I'll check it. And usually when I check it, the rest of that quart goes back into the engine. And you don't want to overfill. No, you get it over a little bit. It's not going to matter. But if you get too much in there, what ends up happening is there's a breather on there. And what happens is you'll get oil inside of that breather so much that it'll go through the tube into the carburetor and through the combustion chamber, and then she smokes like crazy. I think I mentioned it earlier. I always wait till night. If I run into a case like that, I always wait till nighttime to fire it up, because somebody might call the fire company when they see all that smoke coming out. Well, let me check that before I add any more. Because I did add some before I filled up that bottle. Yeah, she looks like she's on it. She's on the mark. I don't know if you could see that. I don't know. The camera might have a hard time focusing on something like that, but it's good. It's barely slightly over the full mark. I'm going to leave it at that. Right now is also a good time to check your starter rope. And again, that's part of a service. When I do a mower, if that starter rope starts to look frayed, I'll put a new starter rope. And that'll probably be one of the future videos, is replacing starter ropes. There's 3 different, what's the word I'm looking for? Complications. There's the easy, the medium, and the hard. The easy one is just to replace the rope itself. Medium is if the rope breaks and you got to dig the rope out. And the hard is just when you got it torn apart and that spring's out of it and you got to put the spring back in. So that'll probably be a future video, maybe be the next one. Maybe the next one I'll be servicing a riding mower. But right now, let me get this done. All right, so I got her all filled up with oil, new air filter, new spark plug. Something else about this, the Briggs. I don't know what the reason behind it is, but I've seen it enough times that, people will have a brand new Briggs engine on their mower, and when they pull the rope comes all the way out to the stop position where you use up all the rope. And really, it's not a good idea. You shouldn't, it shouldn't. It should be able to fire before you get all the rope pulled out. And Briggs seems to cut maybe 6 inches to a foot off of every one of their engines. And, they're doing it to save money. Shame on them. Put an extra foot on it. So when I got a new one, I don't even if the rope's in good shape, I'll replace it anyways. So anyways, I got it. I got a little bit more to do, but I'm going to have to shut it off right now, and we'll get back into it tomorrow. So sit tight. I'll be back. All right, I got my microphone on. I hope everybody can hear me all right. My lawn boy here, these lawn boys, these old style staggered wheels, which they don't make anymore. I got a couple of grease fittings on it, and all I got to do is give it a couple of shots of grease, and she'll be ready for the season. So let me grab my grease gun. These here, there's a cover on here that covers the gears. They get filled with grease, so every few years I got to take these wheels off, clean all that grease all out of there, and put her back together, and be good for a couple more years. 2 shots should be more than enough. as I said in one of my other videos, make sure you have plenty of rags around. Oh, and this goes with all grease fittings. Before you insert that coupling of the grease gun on your fitting, and also maybe wipe it off and wipe the tip of the grease gun, because or the grease fitting, because if there's anything in there, it's going to get shot right into it. So, all right. I think she's ready for some grass. Let me let her down. Take it outside. See if she fires. And she should. She fired before I brought it in. Oh, before I do, I think I'm going to just double check the oil, make sure I got the oil level right. As I said earlier, pay close attention on what kind of machine you have, because like this Briggs, this fits flush in there and gives a quarter turn and locks it in place. But some of these screw in, and I know the Hondas, they screw in. I'm pretty sure the let me think if the Kawasaki's. I think the Kawasaki's do. But anyways, make sure you, whatever engine you got, that you check the oil properly with whether you don't screw it in, or you can have one like this. The Briggs just a in and quarter turn. Oh yeah, she's good. All right, I'm gonna let her down, take her outside, fire it up. Sometimes that thing lets go pretty quick. I don't leave this door open too long. I got the electric heater on, and there goes my electric bill. She's ready. I did notice that one of those front wheels have a split in it. So I'm going to end up having to replace one of the front wheels, which really isn't a big deal. I have used ones I keep, when I scrap a mower, just hold on to it. If my customer comes in with a bad mower or bad wheels on their mower, I'll grab one of them, put on there. Don't even charge it for them. So, anyways, that's how you spring tune up your lawnmower. Ready for the season. I'm jacking my table up right now. Ready for the season. Keep an eye on the oil. If you mulch, if you bag, occasionally over the summertime, you want to check your air filter, because those grass clippings, it kicks up a lot of dust and debris. And, like I said earlier, I think I know I read somewhere that the velocity of that air going into the throttle of that carburetor is 70 miles an hour. And anything that's around there is going to get sucked right up to that air cleaner. So you want to keep an eye on that. So I'd like to inject this little segment in between where I left off with finishing up the riding or the push mower and the things that work for me. As I did earlier in this video, I talked about this carburetor. And one of my customers, he has a walk behind, I think it's a Kawasaki engine on it, and it was leaking gasoline. Now I always say that it is impossible to fix something that isn't broken. And what happens when you try to fix something that isn't broken? You screw it up. And that's just what the manufacturers did with these carburetors. A number of years ago, the Briggs, the Tecumseh. You can rebuild the carburetor. The Lawn Boys, you can get a needle valve and seat. Costs you less than 10 bucks. They leak gasoline. You replace the needle valve and seat. Boom, you're back in business. No more leaks. Less than $10. Well, for some reason, manufacturers have changed the way they designed these carburetors. Instead of what the old needle valve and seat was, the seat was, I know it's some kind of rubber type material. It's not rubber because it dissolves in gasoline, but whatever the material was, it was a flexible, soft material. It would be inserted in the body of the carburetor, and then you'd have a stainless steel needle valve or an aluminum needle valve. I'm not exactly sure, but it would go onto the float, and as the bowl would fill up with gasoline, that needle valve would press against that soft seat and stop the fuel from floating into the carburetor. And over time, they can get hard or whatever. They would start leaking. You'd pull the old needle valve and seat out, put a new one in, you were back in business. Well, like I said, they redesigned these where they put a brass insert inside the body of the carburetor, and the needle valve has a flexible tip on it. And what happens is, these carburetors, over time, they start leaking. Now, whether it's the needle valve with the flexible tip, I've tried to replace those in the past, and it never really worked for me. And I would look up a carburetor, and they're outrageously, ridiculously priced. It really got me upset that they've changed that way, and now when a customer comes in with a leaking carburetor, I got to go buy them a new carburetor, an OEM carburetor. This carburetor here, an OEM carburetor at Parts Tree, $269. Now this carburetor was leaking. I think I gave you the test. My tongue doesn't stick to it. It's leaking. And you can't get that brass insert out. Now maybe I could put a new needle valve in there. It might work, but I've done that enough times before that it didn't work for me. So what I do is, I'll get that part number, and I have it here, and you can look it up yourself. This is a Kawasaki part number 15003-7035. I'll try to post it on this segment. And I took that part number, and I went to eBay. And even the OEM carburetors for the Kawasaki, it's a Mikuni carburetor, they were like $168, $169. But an aftermarket carburetor, which is what I purchased, less than 20 bucks. I think it was like $16 for an aftermarket carburetor. And I ordered it, I put it on, and that puppy fired on the first pull. And it really upsets me to understand why that this OEM carburetor from the manufacturer can cost that much money, and yet I can get a carburetor off of eBay for a tenth of what this thing costs at Parts Tree. So what I'm getting at here is, if you have this problem, that your carburetor's leaking gas, you're leaking gas out of your air cleaner, or it's flooding your crankcase, or whatever, the gas isn't stopped here, and you take it to one of these dealers that sell the new equipment and service what they sell and whatever, and they call you up and they say, you need a new carburetor and it's going to be 170 bucks plus labor. Ask them, well, what about an aftermarket carburetor? And if they tell you something like, oh, we don't use those, but what we can do is we'll give you 50 bucks towards this mower and we'll just sell you a new one. Run. Because what they're going to do, and this is my assumption, what they're going to do is they're going to take your machine, buy an aftermarket carburetor, put it on it, charge you the outrageous price for a new carburetor, and turn around and sell your machine for whatever, a lot more, hundreds of dollars more. I just see this as a swindle. So keep in mind, they make out if you're capable of if you have that problem and you're capable of replacing a carburetor yourself, get the part number. I get it from Parts Tree. Get that part number. Go to eBay. Put that number in eBay and see if you can get it for a lot less. But It's ridiculous. It really gets me upset. How do I justify calling one of my customers and saying, you need a $270 carburetor plus shipping plus labor on your machine? They're going to be furious, which I can understand. So this is what I've done, and it worked. And by the way, I put that new carburetor on it, and that puppy fired on the first pull, and the guy even said it never ran so good. So keep that in mind. If you're capable of doing it yourself, do it yourself. And just be aware of what some of these, and I'm not saying all of them, but some of these dealers, boy, they rather sell you a machine than fix it. And, you know, you could be just spending a lot of money for nothing. So anyways, that's a tip I wanted to give you. Thank you. Anyways, for my works for me segment it's spring, and now it's pretty cold out there now, but so they're not stirring up, but it's not going to be long the temperature is going to warm up and the carpenter ants are going to start being active. And just so you know this, if you see when the weather changes and it gets warmer and you see a carpenter ant in your house, chances are you got a nest in it. And although I should talk about it now, I'll talk about it later on how to get rid of them out of your house. I did have, Orkin, and they really didn't do anything. But I ended up getting rid of them myself. But anyways, now, and when it starts warming is the time to do a preventive type of care to keep the carpenters away from your house. One of the things you do want to look at is look all around your house and make sure none of the trees, branches, or anything are touching your house, because those carpenter ants, if they can't get in through the ground, through the, around your lawn or everything, they'll go into a tree and they'll climb through the tree. And I know it because I've seen it. I had a carpenter nest in the corner of our house last year, spring, and I did get rid of them. But I couldn't see how they were getting into the house. I was walking all around and I never saw any carpenter ants on the ground or on the walls or anything. But I did see them at the corner of the house. So when I went up there to check it out, I did get what's called time-release poison, and I put a glove there. But the way they were getting in, where they was crawling along the power line, and then right into my roof. Well, I'll talk about getting rid of them with what I use for the time-release poison maybe in my next video, but this is the time to try to prevent them from building a nest in your home. And what I use is this. It's called Spectricide Triacide Insect Killer. And just so you know, this these videos that I do on these things, I'm not getting endorsed from them or anything. They're not paying me or anything. I'm just sharing this with you with what works for me. And what I've done was, you can get this stuff Home Depot, Lowe's. You can even get it at Dollar General. It's not real expensive. I'm pretty sure a 25-pound bag like this was less than this is a 10-pound bag, was less than $10. Maybe, and definitely less than $20. Maybe not less than 10. I can't remember exactly, but it's not that expensive. And what I do is, I'll take a can, like a soup can or something, and I'll just go all around my house with it, and I'll just sprinkle a 3-foot path all around the house. Now, like I said, it's kept them away from climbing up my walls and into my roof or wherever they wanted to make their nest. It has kept them out. Those carpenter ants from last year were coming along the power line to get into the house. So, as I said, in the next video, I'll talk about, for the work for me, about what I used to get rid of them, to kill the nest that was in the house. And I did that, never saw another carpenter ant in the house, never saw another carpenter ant where they were getting in at. But I know that this stuff has worked, and I'll put this around like I said, I'll put it all around the shop, about a 3-foot width, all around the shop, and then all around the house. And it's kept the carpenter ants away from that part of the house. I did have, just to mention, I did have some branches that were touching the power line, and that's how they were getting onto the power line, through the tree, onto the line, into the house. So trimmed those branches away, and like I said, I think I got them taken care of. But Spectricide, Triacide. It's where they sell the grass seed and the lawn care fertilizer, things like that at Home Depot. But like I said, I know I saw it at Dollar General, and hey, it worked for me. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I'm thinking about what my next video is going to be. It's either going to be on something simple as replacing starter ropes, or I don't think I'm going to do a video quite yet on servicing a riding mower, because I'm really getting backed up. I got to walk behind out there. I got to get serviced. I got this Simplicity I got to take care of. I got a riding mower in the back of my truck I got to take care of. I got 2 blowers here and a chainsaw. I got a lot of work to do. So maybe a little while before I get back into making another video, but I will be making another one as soon as I get some breathing room. So if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this, mention in the comments if there's anything that that you'd like me to cover. Have any questions, comments, concerns, just go ahead and post it. And as I said, give me a thumbs up, and hey, see you next time. Thank you.